To me, it just really goes to show that politicians really are just feeding off of these irrational fears from people instead of actually trying to help their communities. And in so many of the actual issues that affect communities all across America, no matter kind of what side of the spectrum you're on, I don't think books that have anything to do with the LGBTQ community.
Also, do you know how many?
A Mississippi mayor is withholding funds until LGBTQ books are removed from the library. His actions have started a national conversation on what if books should be or not banned when they include LGBTQ content. So let's talk about it.
I'm just gonna take a shot and guess that this Mississippi mayor is a closeted homosexual.
Possibly, but I'm just...
Who has that amount of energy?
It just
That's so specific, too.
So specific.
And the
That's
books,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
You're
And
telling.
the library.
It's telling.
In 2020.
I just have to say that throughout history, normally, the ones that have burned the books have never been on the right side of history.
Never.
It's always the bad guys, the ones that are burning books. Because what is the damage on
Honestly, it's the people
reading?
who need to pick up a book and read and educate themselves.
Absolutely.
It's always those same people.
And then to mess with youth, with like kids that are trying to find themselves, trying to find their identities. The only resource that they have are books to read. Some of these LGBTQ stories or LGBTQ, people that have become part of history, and now you want to take this away from them so that they don't feel not only represented on television and film, but in books. I'm flabbergasted. I don't even know, how do we fight this back?
At some point, all this ignorance has to die off.
You know what? That makes a great point for so many things, actually. And I think that's where I think a lot of this generation needs to understand that, it's not something that you can just turn on and off with a light switch. It's like with each coming generation and the generation that kind of fades away into history. I think that's kind of the crossroads that we're at. So with this kind of circumstance, even like his approach is a little bit dated and it shows his generation because it has to do with like books and libraries and stuff. And I feel like for the most part, the youth are not even at this. Like, it seems like he's just trying to look for something to pick on.
Well, the saddest part of the whole thing is that he's using the excuse of being a Christian, that because of his Christian values.
But here's my issue with that statement. You can absolutely be a Christian and have faith in whatever it is you believe. Not everybody in this country is of your same belief. There are people of different religious beliefs, if any, who have different views on the world and different values, and you have to respect that.
Absolutely.
Also, is he trying to ban other types of books too? Because it seems like when
specifically.
A lot of times when the Christian excuse is used is only ever for LGBT, but there's so many.
Easiest target.
Yes, and specifically in this case in Mississippi, the problem with the Mississippi conversation is that it has spread. Now in Florida, Governor DeSantis is also talking about a law where you can mention gay in front of children or like refer to the term gay.
It's spreading in, again, ignorant communities, in communities rooted in just a history of hate and a history of knocking down other communities of people.
To me, it just really goes to show that politicians really are just feeding off of these irrational fears from people instead of actually trying to help their communities. And in so many of the actual issues that affect communities all across America, no matter kind of what side of the spectrum you're on, I don't think books that have anything to do with the LGBTQ community
also, do you know how many
causing harm?
LGBTQ people have been around since the beginning of time. We are a part of history. We are history. We are influential. You can't erase us just by burning books. We will still exist. We will always exist.
And not only that, is that now we've had some freedom where like now we can get married, all these things that historically they never allowed us to do. So if you want to damage your child and lose them possibly in the future, by all means, go ahead.
Well, we could cold talk about this topic for hours, but this is unfortunately all the time we've got. And when we come back, Damian Navarro joins us, so don't go anywhere. You are watching The Q Agenda.